Now listen here, y'all. There comes a time in every nation's life where it's gotta decide, am I gonna be used or am I gonna be respected? Am I gonna keep playing nice at the table where everybody eating off my plate? Or am I gonna build my own table and tell 'em, don't knock if you didn't help build it? And that's exactly what India just did. For decades, America's been calling the shots, running the global economy like a high-stakes poker game. And India was the quiet player, calculating, studying, waiting. But that game done changed, because India just did something bold, brave, and straight-up historic. India ended trade with America and turned toward Russia and China. You gotta understand what this means. This ain't just numbers on paper. This is not just tariffs or import bans or shipping routes. This is a declaration that India ain't gonna dance to nobody else's rhythm no more. See, for too long, America been treating India like an optional ally. Like a tool to use against China when convenient, a market to flood with overpriced goods, a country to lecture on democracy and human rights, while signing defense deals on the side. That relationship. One-sided, and India finally saw through the illusion. It saw that being in America's pocket comes at a cost to sovereignty, to growth, to respect. Now when India cut them trade ties, folks in Washington were shocked. They thought India wouldn't dare. They thought New Delhi would blink, but India ain't blinking no more. India stared back and said, we ain't afraid of your sanctions. We ain't scared of your pressure. We got our own game now. And in that moment, a shift happened, not just economically, but spiritually. That was the moment India said, we choose dignity over dependency. We choose strategy over sympathy. America built its strength on the idea that everyone needs them. They thought they were the sun, and all the other countries were just planets orbiting around them. But India just launched its own orbit, baby. And now it's gravitating toward Russia and China, not because India loves them, but because they offer what America stopped offering, mutual respect. Russia don't lecture, China don't preach. They negotiate, they deal, and they respect strength. India got strength now, India got leverage, and India is using it. Let me tell you something. This ain't just about trade deals. This is about values. America used to be about opportunity, about fairness. But somewhere along the road, they forgot that. They started punishing nations that wanted to be independent. They used the dollar as a weapon. They made every trade deal come with strings. You want oil, you better vote our way at the UN. You want semiconductors, better not shake hands with Putin. You want development loans, better let us rewrite your textbooks. That's not partnership, that's control, and India ain't having it no more. See, this decision, this bold break, it didn't come out of nowhere. It's been building for years. India watched how America pulled out of Afghanistan, leaving chaos. India watched how America kept flirting with Pakistan, in full well the terror that nation funds. India saw the hypocrisy, selling weapons to India while supplying aid to those who threaten its borders. And when push came to shove, when India asked for support at the UN, when India stood firm on oil imports from Russia, what did America do? Tried to shame India, tried to guilt India, tried to isolate India. And India said enough, because India ain't nobody's charity case. It's the fifth largest economy. It's got one of the strongest militaries, the youngest population, and a culture that's older than most nations combined. You don't tell India what to do. You ask India what it thinks. You collaborate with India, not command it. But America kept trying to dictate. So India picked up its dignity and walked away from the table. And where did India walk to? Straight into the arms of a new alignment. Russia and China, they ain't easy friends. But they understand something America forgot. The future is multipolar. No one country gone run the show anymore. And India's the balancing force. Russia got energy, China got infrastructure, and India got brains, scale, and spirit. This trio ain't a pact of convenience. It's a triangle of power. Now folks will say, but wait. India and China got border issues. They fought in Galwan. And yes, that tension is real, but let me tell you something. Diplomacy ain't about friendship. It's about leverage. India ain't naive. It knows China plays rough. But when the West turns trade into blackmail and your own allies treat you like a backup plan, you start build in your own security. You diversify your relationships. That's what India is doing. It's playing chess while others play checkers, and Russia always had India's back. Since the Cold War, Russia supported India at the UN, sold it weapons when no one else would, stood by it when America flirted with Pakistan and Europe danced with China. That loyalty matters. India knows that. And when the war in Ukraine broke out and America said, pick a side, India picked India's side. It kept buying Russian oil even as Europe did the same under the table. It refused to be bullied, and now it's reaping the rewards. Cheap oil, military deals, strategic depth. That's what India's getting from Russia. From China, it's building trade corridors, digital linkages, and BRICS cooperation. And guess what? These moves ain't just symbolic. They're transformational. India's saying, we don't need no green light from Washington to rise. We are the light. Now I know some folks scared of this shift. What if India becomes like China? They say, what if it turns away from democracy? Let me clear that up. India's democracy is its superpower. It ain't Changan that. But being a democracy don't mean being a doormat. It means choose in your own path. It means saying no when yes would compromise your soul. India still believes in freedom, but freedom with self-respect. This break from America is also a wake-up call for the whole world. Because if a country like India can walk away from America's grip, anybody can. If India can say, we'll write our own story, other nations will follow, Africa will follow, Southeast Asia will follow, Latin America already looking, because they tired of being told how to behave. They tired of loans with lectures. They tired of help with humiliation. India is blazing a new trail, and make no mistake, it's risky. It takes guts to say goodbye to the world's biggest economy. It takes courage to turn toward uncertain friends. But that's leadership, that's maturity, that's what a real power does. It makes decisions not based on fear, but on vision. Now here's the part nobody talking about. This move ain't just economic or strategic. It's emotional. For years, India looked up to the West, studied in its universities, wore its suits, used its language, quoted its books, but now India's looking inward. It's wearing its own culture with pride. Building its own tech, funding its own science, reclaiming its identity. This trade break, it's a breakup with dependency. It's saying we appreciate the past, but our future is our own. And you best believe the world is watching. America is watching, confused and bitter. Europe is watching, nervous and unsure. China is watching, cautious but curious. And Russia is smelling, because India just tipped the balance. One move and the whole board shifted. So what's next? India's building new trade routes, land, sea, and digital. It's investing in neighbors Nepal, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, helping them rise so they don't get sucked into China's debt traps or America's conditional aid. It's tacking leadership in BRICS, in SCO, in Global South summits. It's building payment systems that bypass the dollar. It's doing what America used to do, offer real alternatives with respect. And for the Indian people, this move lights a fire, because when your leaders say, we choose sovereignty, it makes you walk taller. When you ain't begging nobody for fuel, for tech, for validation, it makes you grind harder. This ain't just foreign policy, it's national pride. It's economic freedom, it's psychological liberation. So if you think this is just about trade numbers, think again. This is a moment, a signal, a declaration to the world. India has arrived, and it ain't beggin', it ain't bowin', it ain't backing down. India ain't in trade just to punish America. It's in it to protect itself, to grow beyond the cage, to walk without crutches. It's doing what any proud nation must do when faced with arrogance, rise independently. And let me tell you, the ride ain't gonna be smooth. America will retaliate. The media will spin stories. Analysts will say India's making a mistake. But time gonna prove them all wrong, because the new world order. It ain't about dominance, it's about dignity. It ain't about control, it's about cooperation, and the nation leading that movement, the one bold enough to walk away, strong enough to stand alone, wise enough to pick partners, not masters. That nation is India. For decades, global power was seen as a tug of war between the East and the West. A binary narrative where the West symbolized wealth, democracy, and innovation, while the East represented ancient heritage, rising ambition, and controlled growth. But that narrative is breaking. The axis of power is shifting. The old lines are being erased, and a new global map is being drawn. Not with straight lines and two sides, but with complex, overlapping circles of influence. And at the center of this redraw is India, not picking a side but building its own. Because the future isn't East versus West anymore. It's nations like India carving out their own gravitational pull, creating independent orbits that are not tethered to anyone else's script. India doesn't want to be a pawn in someone else's great game. It has grown tired of being told who to align with, who to trade with, and how to vote in global forums. That era is over. India is no longer trying to fit into an existing order, it's creating a parallel one. You can see it in how it's approached diplomacy, trade, defense, and even technology. While America tries to corner nations into a Western bloc, and China pushes its own influence across Asia and Africa, India has chosen a third path. One where decisions are not reactive but strategic, where national interest is not compromised for short-term validation, where partnerships are mutual, not submissive. The creation of independent orbits of influence means India doesn't need to pick between superpowers. It can engage with Russia for energy and defense, with the U.S. for innovation and investment, with Europe for environmental collaboration, with the Middle East for labor and energy partnerships, and with ASEAN for trade and cultural ties. This multi-alignment policy is not confusion, it's evolution. It's the manifestation of true sovereignty. It's the freedom to choose without fear. It's the confidence to say yes when it benefits the nation and no when it doesn't, without needing anyone's permission. Look at how India has approached the Russia-Ukraine conflict. The West wanted condemnation, the East wanted silence. India offered something else, strategic neutrality. It refused to be a puppet. It kept buying discounted oil from Russia, not because it supports war, but because its economy demanded it. And while doing so, it sent humanitarian aid to Ukraine, urged peace, and refused to be cornered by media or Western diplomats. That's what an independent orbit looks like. India wasn't pulled by either side's gravity. It maintained its own. This independence isn't just political, it's economic too. India is crafting trade policies that prioritize self-reliance. The Make in India movement isn't about isolation, it's about insulation. It's about being shockproof. When global supply chains collapsed during the pandemic, nations realized how fragile dependency was. India learned too, and it acted. It started building up its own semiconductor ambitions, defense production capabilities, energy alternatives, and food security systems. Because true influence comes not just from alliances, but from the ability to stand alone when needed. Culturally, too, India is creating its own orbit. For too long, global soft power was synonymous with Hollywood, Harvard, and Western ideologies. But now, Bollywood, Ayurveda, yoga, Indian IT hubs, and regional languages are asserting themselves. Indian cinema is winning global awards. Indian CEO are running multinational companies. Indian spirituality is influencing wellness industries in the West. But none of this is happening because India copied anyone. It's happening because India chose to amplify what was already within. It's drawing the world into its orbit, not the other way around. Even in technology, where the U.S. and China are in a digital Cold War, India is quietly building its own path. It's creating indigenous alternatives to Western platforms. It's regulating foreign tech companies to protect its data and citizens. It's building platforms like UPI that have become global case studies in innovation. And it's not afraid to say no. When Western apps didn't comply with Indian regulations, they were banned. When Chinese data practices threatened security, they were blocked. India isn't caught in the middle, it's standing above the noise, designing its own digital universe. Militarily, India has understood that dependency is a risk. That's why it's shifting from being the world's largest arms importer to becoming a serious arms manufacturer. The shift to Atmanirbharta in defense is not a slogan, it's a strategy. India is partnering with France, Israel, and Russia not just to buy, but to co-develop, to learn, to own. It's producing missiles like BrahMos, developing stealth technologies, and building aircraft carriers, not to show off, but to say, we will defend our interests without leaning on your shoulder. That posture builds respect. Respect attracts influence. Influence builds an orbit. Geopolitically, India is also expanding its regional presence in ways that signal this new orbit clearly. Look at the Indian Ocean. Look at Africa. Look at Central Asia. India is investing in ports, connectivity corridors, digital infrastructure, and solar alliances. It's pushing for permanent membership in the UN Security Council, and global financial institutions are beginning to notice. This isn't a nation content with being a participant. It's aiming for the steering wheel, but unlike others, it's not seeking dominance. It's offering balance. And balance is what the world desperately needs right now. The East-West binary has led to proxy wars, trade conflicts, ideological warfare, and media manipulation. The world is tired of being forced to choose between extremes. That's where India's role becomes historic. Its rise offers an escape route, a new pole of stability, a model where nations can collaborate without being colonized, can trade without being trapped, can ally without being assimilated. That's why global institutions are now looking at India with fresh eyes. Not just as a counterweight to China, but as a civilizational force, as a country that has never invaded others but has influenced everyone, as a place where democracy coexists with deep tradition, as a society that is messy, loud, imperfect, but alive, thriving, and evolving on its own terms. That authenticity is magnetic, and that magnetism builds orbits. Orbits that others want to join voluntarily, not out of fear but out of aspiration. India is showing that you don't have to follow Washington to grow. You don't have to mimic Beijing to succeed. You can forge a new way, a hybrid model, a sovereign path, this idea that a country doesn't have to align with existing power blocks to matter is revolutionary. Because for a long time, influence was only recognized if it was granted by the West. Now, India is demanding recognition based on merit, performance, and vision, and nations are taking notice. Countries in Africa, Latin America, Southeast Asia, they're all watching how India's doing it. And some are already following suit. What we're witnessing is not just India's rise, it's the rise of a new framework for global interaction, one that doesn't rely on bullying, bribery, or broadcasting ideologies, one where influence is earned through respect, cooperation, and resilience. This framework threatens the old model where either you were with the West or against it. Either you played by their rules or you got punished. India is rejecting that premise, and in doing so, it's giving hope to the entire global South. This isn't about being anti-West or pro-East, it's about being pro-self. It's about understanding that the world has changed, that we're no longer in the Cold War, that the internet has flattened information, that youth are connected, that aspirations can't be boxed into blocks. In this world, the only real power is the ability to influence without coercion. And that's exactly what India is now capable of. India's orbit doesn't require others to shrink, it invites them to expand. It doesn't demand loyalty, it inspires trust. It doesn't dominate, it collaborates. That model is powerful because people are tired of being dictated to. Governments are tired of hypocrisy. Economies are tired of over-reliance. India offers something rare in today's climate, a leadership style rooted in humility, heritage, and harmony. And that's not just refreshing, it's revolutionary. As the West scrambles to protect its old systems and China races to export its new ones, India is quietly planting seeds of a third way. A multipolar world where respect trumps rivalry. A decentralized order where culture and economy matter as much as military might. A world where cooperation is a strength, not a weakness. This is the future India is helping shape, and it's not asking for approval, it's just building it. India is not joining anyone's orbit because it is busy forming its own. An orbit defined not by submission, but by sovereignty. Not by confrontation, but by